Hey everybody, it's Adrienne and
Alyssa
for WDW Bound. And today we want to talk a little bit about staying on property when you go to Disney versus staying off property.
Yeah, because we've done both.
We have done both.
Multiple times.
Absolutely. And while we are definitely proponents for staying on property, there are definitely some reasons why you might want to stay off property.
Yeah.
So pros of staying off property include cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to pay a lot less for like a standard hotel room, or even like some condos, or if you want to rent an entire house,
you can.
I mean, there's so many options, and you're going to probably pay half of what you would at Disney.
Because even value rooms at Disney are running $240 a night right now, and that's talking...
I think the lowest that I saw when I last priced, I like to fake plan vacations, was like for September, and it was like All-Star Music was minimum like $170 a night. Yeah. But you can probably get the same room off property for like $100.
Right. So cost just in general, if you're looking to save money, it's definitely going to happen if you stay off property. Now the other bonus or the other pro to staying off property is that you're going to get more value for your money. If you spend, approximately the same amount, so you spend $300, instead of getting a moderate studio, you can get a 3-bedroom condo.
Right. Yeah, because I think last time, so I'll preface it with saying that our last trip we stayed off property and we stayed in a 1-bedroom suite. And now we got a deal through Hilton Rewards, but we priced it outside of that just to see how much this would normally cost. And like peak summer, I think I priced it for like June of this year, and a 1-bedroom suite at the same hotel, just renting it off of like booking.com, was like $115 a night for a 1-bedroom suite. So you get a living room, you get a kitchen, you get a big bathroom. Some of them even have like laundry, like washers and dryers in there, dishwashers, and then your own separate bedroom. So you're gonna spend less and you're gonna get a lot more for your money. Especially if you're going with big families. We did multiple trips years ago with mom and dad, and we got like 2- and 3-bedroom condos, and it worked for everybody because everybody got their own bedroom. You got this big kitchen, so if you wanted to cook breakfast or go back and do lunch or pack your own sandwiches, you had a full-size refrigerator, a freezer, laundry. So it definitely works for a lot of, especially if you're a big family. That's definitely a big pro to staying off property, because you're going to spend less and get more for your room.
And I'll be honest, like as my kids get older, I think I've talked before on the channel, they don't like to share bed anymore. Fair enough, they're 11 and 8. But finding rooms that either have separate beds for them or separate rooms that are still cost effective is really, really hard. We have rented 1-bedrooms, like at Beach Club specifically, and you would think a 1-bedroom would, like a 1-bedroom suite, would have ample bed space, but they don't. It's actually, they had to share a bed, and it was just a pull-out couch, versus when we stayed in a studio where at least had the pull-down Murphy bed, and so they could sleep separately. But I can't afford a 2-bedroom suite with Disney prices.
And the family suites, they built those that like at Art of Animation, All-Star Music has family suites. So those work because they have a fold-out couch, they have a Murphy bed, and a separate bedroom. However, they're like $400 a night minimum. You may pay even more, up to $600 a night, depending on when you're going, for your kids to be able to sleep separate. And that's just not cost effective.
And we are all about, like, we want to go as often as possible, so
for as little amount of money,
for as little as possible,
so we can go more.
Exactly. But so that's definitely a pro, and I can see a lot of people that have older children in particular that need that extra space but just can't afford Disney prices. And I get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are definitely some cons to staying off property as well. While you're saving money, you're also going to be paying a little bit extra for parking. And transportation. And transportation in general.
Yeah, is not as convenient. Because that was the one thing, if you're high anxiety like me, that was the one thing that stressed me out about our last trip, was trying to get there and navigating Orlando traffic. And so one of the biggest cons, every time we got in the car, I was like, I hate I-4.
Yeah.
I hate I-4. We're never doing this again because it's so stressful.
Yeah.
Because you can't, like, it's 4 lanes of traffic on each side. So it's like 8 lanes across. But no matter what time of day you're on the highway, it is bumper to bumper traffic. Like, we were there at 8 o'clock in the morning, bumper to bumper. We were there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, bumper to bumper. Coming home at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, bumper to bumper traffic on I-4. And you can't avoid I-4 unless you're like Orlando savvy. Like, if you're local, it's not a big deal probably because you know the ins and outs.
But if you're visiting.
Yeah, but if you're staying in Orlando as a tourist, you're going to be probably on some sort of hotel that is off I-4. So you have to get on I-4 in order to get to any of the parks, whether you're going to SeaWorld, whether you're going to Universal, or if you're going to any of the Disney parks. You can't avoid it if you're a tourist unless you've got the ins.
Right.
So if you know something that I don't.
You can set your GPS in a way that I don't know how to.
Yeah. So if you have tips, let me know, because that's what I hated the most about staying off property was having to get on I-4. But yeah, so if you're not comfortable driving in like major highways, and you know, even if you've got GPS, sometimes it's confusing. So that was the biggest con for us, is it just kind of stressed me out a little bit.
And I mean, you can Uber or, you know, get a Lyft or whatever, but
that's an additional cost.
That's an additional cost. Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of cuts into your resort cost savings.
Yeah, and you have to have a vehicle too.
Yeah.
Like, if you say you fly, you can either Uber everywhere or you can rent a vehicle.
Yeah.
Either way, it's an extra cost.
Yeah.
So I mean, you kind of have to. We're lucky in that we're within driving distance because we're from South Carolina. So our drive is anywhere between like 8 and 10 hours.
Yeah.
You know, depending on
traffic and stops.
Yeah, traffic and stops and that kind of stuff. So we can do it, and we always split the stay anyway. We stay in Georgia overnight, so that way it's not as difficult. So we have our vehicle each time that we go, whether or not we're staying off property or we're staying on property. We still have our family vehicle as a method of transportation.
Right.
But if you're flying from, you know, across, you know, a couple states and you got to factor that cost in too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that also eats into your time, like your actual park time.
Yeah.
Because you've got to factor in, and if you've got little kids that need to nap, like you're going to be leaving during the day and coming back. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not, I feel like this is like a promotional video for staying on park property for Disney. That's not what I mean at all, but there are just so many pros to staying on property,
but it's gonna be cost.
You're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, if you're looking to save money, staying off property is definitely an option that a lot of families will utilize, and we have utilized it. But with anything, you know, with any vacation, if you want convenience, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things too that came up the other day at work is I have a friend that's planning a Disney trip and for a large family. And so because it was for a large family, they've opted to stay off property. So one of the questions that he asked me the other day was, what is the likelihood of me getting a Rise of the Resistance lightning lane? And like, slim?
It's a hard question.
Yeah. And if you're not aware, if you're staying off property, a lot of people say, what are the perks to staying on property anymore? Because it used to be extra magic hours and the fast passes and being able to book your dining reservations early and all that good stuff. And a lot of that is gone. Mm-hmm. But this with Genie Plus is kind of a new perk, I guess. If you stay on property, you can start booking your Genie Plus lightning lanes at 7 a.m. And if you're off property, it's not until the park opens, right? So if it's a 9 a.m. opening, you can start at 9. But if you're on property, you can start at 7. And those Rise of the Resistance lightning lanes are gone by like 7:03.
Yeah.
So now Disney, from what I understand, I haven't tried, but Disney does release some periodically throughout the day, I guess.
And people cancel and you know, that kind of stuff. They change their plans. But there's also alternatives. Like, say, for example, if your trip is to save money, if that's the reason why you're staying off property, is to get more bang for your buck, there are alternatives. You don't have to use lightning lane.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can always get there right when the park opens and just rope drop it. Just run and get in line. Yeah. And don't let the wait times necessarily scare you, because consistently, anytime, because our last trip, we didn't do Genie Plus, we didn't do the individual lightning lanes. We just stood in line And consistently, every single ride that we did that we just stood in line was probably only 70 to 80% of the posted wait time. Like, we got in line for Naughty River Journey. It was posted at a 75-minute wait. We waited 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so Pirates of the Caribbean was the same. It was a 45-minute wait. We waited 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't let the wait times scare you. And there's another tip too, is to wait until right before park close. So if you're wanting to get on Rise, a lot of people have already done it.
Right.
And they're not getting in line, or they're already gone for the day. So say the park closes at 10, hop in the line at 9.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get to ride it before the park closes.
Yeah.
And then you can go home and say you did what you wanted to do.
Right.
So there's alternatives. You don't have to use lightning lanes, especially if you're trying to save money on the trip. But that is something that you have to consider if you're going to use lightning lane. Like, say you're going to use that extra money that you saved on your hotel to do Genie Plus or the individual lightning lanes. That is something to consider, that might be a little bit more difficult.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I like that tip of waiting until the afternoon, because the one thing that I do like about Genie Plus versus FastPass is that you can only book once per person per day. Mm-hmm. So you can't get multiple fast passes or lightning lanes or whatever for a single attraction. So once people have done it, they're done. So that's definitely a plus, that if towards the end of the day you're gonna expect to see lower wait times.
Yeah, and they'll boost the wait times. Like, it's pretty widely known that they manipulate the wait times on the app. So they're gonna bump up the wait time closer to park close because they want to discourage you from getting in line. They want you to go home.
Yeah.
So don't let that scare you, because I would anticipate that the wait time is going to be a lot less than that. Because I saw, I don't know who I was watching on YouTube, said that they got into the standby line for something that was like an hour and a half, or half an hour before the park closed, and it was posted like a crazy number, like 100 minutes or something like that, and it was literally half.
Yeah.
Because that's just what Disney does.
Yeah.
And all theme parks that have posted wait times do that. So
aren't always accurate.
Yeah, because they're using that to push people.
Crowd control.
Push people towards a certain direction.
Right.
So don't let the wait times freak you out either, because they're probably going to be inflated.
So before we close the video, we wanted to talk about a few of our favorite places to stay off property. Yep. One of our very first Disney trips ever, I guess in 2000? 2000, right? No. The next one. When I got engaged.
2004.
Yeah, 2004. We stayed at a condo property called Bahama Bay. It's about a 15-minute drive out from Walt Disney World property. We've stayed there multiple times since. It has 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom condos. Excellent. Good pools, quiet pools, big pool.
Yeah, we never had any issues finding parking, and we've stayed there before. We stayed there in 2014, 2006.
Another big family trip.
Yeah, another big family trip. And we stayed there again and got another 2- and 3-bedroom condo, and never had any issues with parking. They had a restaurant on site. They've got a pool. So we really liked it.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites.
Yeah, it's a little bit far as far as driving is concerned. Obviously, if you're staying off property, expect a little bit of a drive. But yeah, we have nothing bad to say about them.
Christopher and I also stayed at some of the Disney Springs area hotels. Specifically, there was a Hampton Inn literally across the street from the Disney Springs entrance, and we had. Again, you're looking at Hampton Inn prices, so $125 a night, something like that. Mm-hmm. Very convenient, obviously, since we could almost walk into Disney Springs. Now, this was before Lime Garage and Orange Garage and all those, but we thoroughly enjoyed that stay as well.
Mm-hmm. And our last trip, the one that we just got back from in February, we stayed at Tuscany Village, which is owned by Hilton. And we think, like I said, we got it as a deal through Hilton Rewards, but we think this is one of those, it was owned by somebody else and then Hilton bought it, because it was a little bit of an older hotel. You can kind of tell that it's been lived in. But we really enjoyed our room. We got a 1-bedroom suite, and it was just me and my husband. And then we also had a full living room with a
Yeah.
couch. And then I think the couch was a pull-out couch. So if you needed more, it probably slept at least 4. And then it had a screened-in patio,
so nice.
which was so nice, especially with Florida with bugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't get away from the bugs and the lizards in Florida.
Yeah.
So it was a screened-in porch. It was a nice little patio set. It even had a ceiling fan on the patio, so you could actually like sit out there and enjoy the weather. And then it was right on the water, so you could see there was like a lagoon or whatever in the middle of the hotel. So that was really nice. So one morning we were able to make our coffee and sit outside and just kind of enjoy the morning. Yeah. They provided you with some detergent. So if you needed to do laundry, you know, you could do laundry.
Very nice.
So like we were really impressed with the room. The only downside that we didn't like was the parking because for whatever reason, I don't know, so there were 7 total buildings that had rooms in it. And then there was like the main building that had like the restaurants and concierge and, you know, that kind of thing. And all the parking was around the perimeter of it, and I'll include a map because we took the map home. But each of the buildings had 7 floors, so there was a lot of rooms.
That's a lot, yeah.
That's a lot of room because we were on like the 5th or the 6th floor. I can't remember, but there were 7 total floors for 7 total buildings, and there was not enough parking.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to consider is like go on Google Maps and like look at the parking situation because every single time, or the hotel that bless the concierge when we checked in, he said we're at 100% capacity this week, so you may have trouble finding parking, and so here's the overflow. And we never once got a parking spot right outside our room.
And there's really nothing worse than coming back from a long day in the parks
and having
to trek back to your room.
Yeah, so that was the only con with that particular hotel. So if we do stay off property, we'll keep that one in mind, but maybe not go on a holiday weekend.
Right, yeah.
When they're at 100% capacity. Yeah. So, but that's another factor to consider as well, is look at the parking for wherever you're staying. Make sure that it's got plenty of parking, so that way when you spent an entire, because that's another thing too, is when we had to do this trip a little bit different because we weren't staying on property, so it was a little bit easier to get back, a little bit harder to get back and forth. So we didn't take midday breaks this time. We had to just find somewhere in the park to
like sit and chill.
And so when we left in the morning, at like 8 o'clock in the morning, we left, and then we got in at like 10 or 10:30.
Yeah.
And so both of those 2 times, it's impossible to find parking because if you leave early in the morning, everybody's still in bed. When you come back late at night, everybody's in bed.
Right.
You know, so the time when people are not going to be at the hotel, is when you're also not in the hotel. So keep that in mind. That is one thing that we learned the hard way, is to look at parking, because we had a good little haul getting back and forth from our car from the overflow parking. So
I also wanted to honorable mention that just kind of popped in my brain while we were recording are the Swan and Dolphin resorts.
Yeah.
At Disney.
Yeah.
They are on property, like they're Epcot area resorts, but they're not owned by Disney. So it's the Swan, the Dolphin, and now the Swan Reserve is also open.
And they're owned by Marriott.
Yeah,
so like if you have Marriott rewards, you can use points.
Use them.
Yeah.
And they are considered deluxe resorts and cost about half the price of a deluxe resort. So, and we've stayed there. We stayed at Swan?
Dolphin.
Dolphin? I can't remember. Yeah, you're right. It was Dolphin.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, it doesn't feel Disney, but staying off property is not going to feel Disney either. But you still get all the perks. You get bus transportation. You don't get magic bands, but that's,
I think you still get early entry.
Yep, you still get early entry. I don't think you get the late stay for the deluxe resorts.
Yeah.
But and you're within walking distance of Hollywood Studios and Epcot. So
and you have boat transportation. I don't know if you're talking about that.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to walk, you can also, there's a boat dock right there in between, because like Swan is one hotel, Dolphin is the other, and then there's like a little walkway that connects the two, and so like in the middle of the walkway is the dock, so it can take you to Epcot, it can take you to Hollywood Studios. So that's another great alternative if you don't want to pay Disney prices, but you still want to stay in a nicer hotel. Now keep in mind, it's still going to be like queen beds or a king bed.
Yeah, like it's a studio. We've only stayed in studios, but it was it's a good option. Yeah, it's a good alternative. We've talked about that if we have one final trip before baby gets here, that we'll stay at Swan and Dolphin, because we don't want to pay, we don't want to pay for
like a deluxe resort, like, because we really love the Epcot resorts. Boardwalk and Beach Club and Yacht Club, but that's going to be like $500-600 a night
if you can't get DVC.
If you can't get DVC, and if we do a trip, it's going to be last minute, so DVC is not going to be an option. Right. So that's probably, if we do a last minute trip before baby comes, that's probably where we're going to try to stay, just because you can walk or you have the boat access.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to be like 6-7 months pregnant, I'm not.
You're going to want boat.
I'm going to want boat. And their rooms are consistently about like $250 a night.
Yeah.
Depending on when you go. So that's about the cost of like Art of Animation or Pop or anything like that.
It's really not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
The only downside is you can't use your magic band to get inside the room.
Yeah.
So
it's like a traditional hotel. But again, it's like you're staying off property, just technically on property.
Just like right there at the parks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's great.
Yeah. All right, so that's all we have. Before we leave, though, I want to give a shout out to Alyssa's ears.
Yeah.
Look at these. Her husband bought a 3D printer and made this for her, and I'm very jealous.
Yeah. Yes, I love them.
I love them so much.
It's been a trial by error kind of thing, but he did such a good job.
That blue is perfect.
Right.
And then perfect. Look at it compared to my ears. That blue is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing is we didn't have time to put like a bow or anything like that, because we talked about, he was like, well, maybe this could go there, and that could be the bow, and you can do like some fireworks that are right there. But he did it in literally a weekend, like right before he was like, oh, I want to make ears for our trip. And so so I think he did a great job.
I love them so much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal them. All right, guys, if y'all have any tips for staying off property, on property, if you have a preference, please let us know down in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see y'all next time.